and welcome to our new Agile Breakfast this month. So today the topic will be like how to grow your team. And yeah, welcome everybody. Um, just to be aware, everybody, so we are recording this session because we had a lot of people asking us, hey, I missed the session. Do you have a recording? We were like, yeah, that's actually a good idea. So if we record it, then people can view it like afterwards. So please be aware that we're recording this. Then who are we? So we are a team of three Agile coaches. It's Shiva, Manuel, and me. And yeah, what we're trying to do like in the Agile Breakfast is like, we don't want to provide some kind of training. We rather like want to share like some useful knowledge, some ideas that we have, and like, yeah, somehow make you hungry for more about like agility. We also work as freelancers. So if you have a question or anything or some need, then yeah, we're happy to work together. Just contact us at agilebyexperience.com, and yeah, we're happy to work together. Then about today's session, we have a guest, and it's Sandro Pan. And yeah, here, please, Sandro, introduce yourself.
Thank you. So yeah, I'm Sandro. I'm 34 years old, and I've been a recruiter for over 10 years now, working in very different organizational structures. So from big corporates like Coca-Cola and Philip Morris down to smaller startups in the e-commerce and gaming industry. And because my heart is always beating for the digital topics, I finally joined Flixbus around about 2 years ago. And now I'm supporting them getting in touch with the most passionate and greatest tech talent on the market.
Nice, thanks.
Great. So should we get started?
Yeah.
Great. We wanted to get started with a question for you, as always using Menti. And then we say, okay, when you are thinking about recruiting, when you are thinking about hiring a new talent for your team, for your company, what comes to your mind? What are the three keywords that come to your mind? So you come here to menti.com and use the code here we have on top. Feel free to start adding your thoughts. Just the first word that comes to your mind when you say, oh, we need to hire someone, we need to hire a new talent for my team, for my company. What's the first thing that comes to your mind? And let's quickly share our thoughts and discuss and talk about them, right? So feel free to come to menti.com, use the code we have here on top, and you will see the option to add your words here, your thoughts. Okay, we have the first things coming here already.
Yeah, and when we're talking about this, very interesting what Sandro said. He said, come what may, recruitment is something that all of us have experienced. So it's not new, right? Even if you've not been part of recruiting someone, you've been recruited. So we all have some thoughts that are kind of aligned to this good, bad. So it's really an interesting topic today, and I'm so happy that we are talking about this today.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so attitude and experience. I see team fit.
Yeah, I was looking at that one also, right? Attitude and team fit for me sounds similar somehow. How these tend to be the biggest?
Interestingly, I mean, they're also the most difficult, right?
Yeah, you see cultural fit also there. I was thinking, I just by chance was discussing with a colleague about this, right? How important is the attitude and the team fit, and how should we, let's say, compare with experience? You want experience, you want technical knowledge, or is it better to have a great team fit and culture fit and then see help the person to grow on experience and technical knowledge, right? And I was kind of, I think that attitude and team fit are more important than experience, right? I would say 60-40 or something like that. But I was I was kind of leaning towards attitude and team fit. Interesting, this one here, war for talent. I don't know how is this. I guess that coming from a recruiter must be kind of difficult to find the right people.
Yeah, but like also could come from a hiring manager as well, I guess. So it's really challenging, especially in times where there's like a lot of dynamics and traction in the talent market. And I mean, like you can see it clearly right now during the pandemic, a lot of people are moving and then switching jobs, and that makes this war for talent, which is kind of like a buzzword that's been spinning around like for a couple of years now, even more intense.
Mm-hmm. And I guess that what is underlying here, or what was my experience when I started getting involved into hiring, is time consuming. I initially had a misconception, this is so easy. I know it's really hard work, and it's really time consuming, and it's a lot of work.
Very nice to also see other things, diversity is also what I saw, and that's very interesting that this is coming up, because I also think it's very important. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
all right.
like
We
especially
could spend
right
a
now.
lot of time just doing this, but I also know we have a lot of content for today. So yeah.
Let's move on.
And essentially, what we thought is, when we are thinking of applying agile thinking to recruitment, what could be some of the things that we could talk about? And we came up with these four, what we thought as pillars. We have transparency, shared responsibility, constant feedback, and collaboration. For us, we thought that these were four things that we could really do to make agile recruitment or recruitment in an agile way better.
Mm-hmm.
And also a very interesting thought which Sandro shared when he saw this, and he said, we had represented them all separate, and then he said they're all so related because together they make it really work. And that's why we have all these arrows going everywhere, because it's not just about having one of them, it's about having all four and how together they really make it work for us.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what you're going to be seeing today, a little bit on each of these four and how you can incorporate this into your recruitment strategy. And then we're also going to hear from Sandro about his experiences on how he's been doing this well with us at FlixBus.
Mm-hmm.
So there's going to be a lot of experience sharing today.
Great. So let's start with transparency. So why is transparency so important? I mean, of course, you want to know like what's happening and what's going on as a team or as a hiring manager. So you need to know the purpose. So like, why are we hiring somebody? Like, what are the plans? Like, why do we need to hire somebody? So it's always important to know the purpose and the reason for the hire. Of course, then like during the process, you really want to know, okay, what's going on? Is there anybody applying? Like, do we already have some interviews? Like, do the people fit, or do you say, oh, that's perhaps like a mismatch? It's not like what we're looking for. So you might have a lot of people like applying, or you just have a few. So you really want to know what's going on. And of course, also like the timeline is important to know, hey, do we need to be fast and quick and want to hire like rather sooner than later, or do we say, hey, yeah, we still have time if we like do it in a few months and would also still work, or do we want to like really be quick? And of course, about the candidate, like what do we know about the candidate? Do we have all the information that we want to have, or is there still something missing? So yeah, it's really important to like have transparency on the process as well. And of course, like about the candidate, it needs to like fit, right? So as you already mentioned before, team fit and also like experience and knowledge, like is it like the right candidate for the position, for also the required topic? Do we have like the right kind of project? Like, do we see that the person is like aligned, and can we be honest? It's all like important to really have a good match.
I guess also I was talking with a colleague the other day, because we were hiring a new product owner for our team, and then we liked something about a person, and we said, well, we need to be transparent when transparent when we make an offer and say, listen, this is the offer, and what we really like about you is this and that. Of all the things that you said, what catch our attention are these couple of things, because we really like that. We think that's going to make the difference. Also to make it transparent, to make it clear, right? Why we are, let's say, choosing him, or why we think he's going to be a great fit, right? Because during an interview you said many things, right? But it's I guess it's also important from the team to the person to say, hey, this is what we really like about you.
Yeah, and I think it's also the other way around. So you really also want to know like about the company, like what are they expecting, like what is the job offer? So like what might be like the duties that you have once you joined. And yeah, I think this is really important to, you know, like also as a candidate, like where are you applying? Like what is the role? Like what are the expectations from the company that they have? So like really being transparent, I think, is really important.
Absolutely. And I think especially in an interview situation, it really shows off if a company can like live up to the concept of transparency, because like this is like a buzzword, like a lot of companies go out there and be like, yeah, we're living transparency and so on. But, you know, of course, I've been like a recruiter for like years, but obviously I had been a candidate as well. So, and if I remember the interviews that I like really felt most comfortable with, and that were like the best interviews that I had, it were the interviews that actually weren't interviews. They were meetings. I was like, they created an environment where they're like there was a guy coming in and being like, okay, Sandro, we got these 5 challenges, and then put something on the whiteboard and be like, okay, let's dig deeper. How can we tackle this? So I was like already feeling like a part of the team in there, and we kind of like dig deeper into a day-to-day situation. That's also about transparency, right? So you really get this insight. Okay, what are they looking for? What are they like taking care of and thinking about and trying to achieve?
Good point.
Last thoughts. I think we've spoken a lot about this, but one more thing that always keeps coming up is setting up expectations. When we're really talking about what a candidate can expect from a job, there is a very good possibility that we kind of upsell most of the times because we want them to join in. But that's also a recipe for disaster, right? We want to also set the right kind of expectations on what they could expect from this position, this kind of job. You might want to sell everything to them because we want to recruit them, but that doesn't also help, does it? And is that something that you see a lot also, Sandro?
Yeah, of course. I mean, like everyone tries to show themselves from their best side. I mean, especially in times of social media, I guess. But it also shows in interview processes, right? So like companies want to stick out with loads of benefits and so on. But they also need to take into consideration that candidates want to feel challenged, right? So like if like it doesn't mean that like having a challenge in general is or like kind of like problems is a bad thing. You just need to talk about the right problem. So like something that a person with the actual profession and that would be interested in the role that you're talking about would feel interested about, right? So if Flixbus is approaching me and saying like, hey Sandro, we want to ramp up a new tech hub somewhere, like that is something that seems like a lot of work to be done for anyone who is not a recruiter. For me as a tech recruiter, I would be psyched. I would be like, oh man, I really want to do this. That is like super exciting.
Wonderful. So these were some of our thoughts on transparency and how you could build this. One with yourself, the other with the process, and third with the candidate. I'm guessing we'll touch more upon the process as we keep going because there's going to be a lot of conversations around that. Probably also the right time for us to move on to the next topic here. And before that, another question on Menti. So this is about your involvement. And the question is, how often are you involved in the hiring process?
Yeah, we were thinking in your case or in your experience, who is involved in the hiring process? Is maybe HR only and they present a candidate or a hiring, maybe HR and the hiring manager, maybe the hiring manager, HR, some sort of team lead, and maybe the person is let's say presented to the team, maybe everybody. We all had different experiences, and we wanted to know yours.
Mm-hmm. And this was also something that we were discussing the other day, Sandro, in terms of traditional recruitment and agile recruitment. What's been your experience with respect to these two? And generally, who's involved, and how is the role of a recruiter different in these?
Yeah, so that is something like looking at the history of recruiting. It's kind of like a very isolated topic. It was in back in the days, it was a topic between the recruiter and the hiring manager. So you just like receive the request on finding someone, and then you went out with the classical post and pray approach. So you were like creating as a recruiter, you create the job ad by yourself, which can be kind of like quite well done if you're looking at like most business related roles, because like recruiters usually have like a business related background. But if you, for instance, approach me and saying like, hey, Sandra, I'm looking for a TypeScript, Node.js, full stack software engineer, and I got to figure out the requirements by myself, all these technologies and keywords, and I post some sort of job ad without anyone checking it, might be the case that I'm not attracting the right talent, which usually happened then. So there were like a lot of back and forth about finding the right people, and actually it took hiring managers and recruiters a lot of time to figure out in the end what was actually needed and what the team also was looking for. And I think that was the reason why recruiting is now like undergoing a transformation and including all the participants and the whole team even. So I'm like really happy about the numbers that I'm seeing right now, that you got like a lot of teams also already being involved. And there is a clear need for that, because the complexity of our environments and organizations and businesses was changing dramatically, like significantly, like over the past years. It was so fast. So you need this input, definitely.
I'm also happy to really see this trend, because that really means that we're just moving in the right direction. Also goes back to what we want to talk about, right? And that's all about shared responsibility. And when we speak about recruitment and we say it's a shared responsibility, that essentially means that it's not just the responsibility of the hiring manager or the recruiter to recruit, but the whole team shares the responsibility. So we kind of listed some people who could be part of it, but they could be more. And that's something that we want the recruiter and the hiring manager and the team to figure out on who should be involved, what could be the process. And it's a shared responsibility in that sense.
Anyway, shared responsibility doesn't mean that they do the same things, right? They, as Sandro said, they have different expertise, they are different areas, but they are working all together to achieve one goal. I don't know, the team is going to do some sort of work, let's say, or is going to participate in this process in one way, while the HR colleague is going to do a different kind of work, right? But the responsibility is all shared and the goal is shared, and we wouldn't like, let's say, to see anybody say, well, I'm just here sitting waiting for my new colleague. I have nothing to do, right? It's a shared goal also to get the right talent on board, right?
And on this, I was also thinking, Sandro, when we involve the whole team in the recruitment, does it also make the onboarding a whole lot easier for the colleagues?
Absolutely. Because with the involvement of the entire team along the entire process of recruiting and onboarding, there is like a consistent build up of the relationship between the team and the future team member. So having them involved is definitely beneficial, and it's kind of like a total switch of mindset. I like something that I saw with for instance, like tech teams who adopted agile recruiting and who were like really significantly successful with that. They were already calculating capacity for interviews and recruiting activities into their sprints. And that is something that shows the awareness. Hey, we as a team, we own the growth of our team as well when we are contributing to that. And that's great. It's working out well.
And generally, how do you involve teams in recruitment? What part of the process are they involved in, and how does it work?
Yeah. So it all comes down to first of all, how basically teams are set up in terms of expectations and transparency. So also, like as you mentioned in the beginning, right? It's influencing each other. If we talk about shared responsibility, it has a lot to do about transparency. So the team needs to be aware, and it needs to be openly communicated that it is expected from the team that they are self-organizing, that they are owning the growth of the team. And with that, also the recruiter needs to be aware this is the environment that the recruiter is working in. A lot of recruiters go into agile environments to recruiting and being like, actually, I kind of know what agile is, but the underlying values, they are not kind of like really like easy to grasp. But understanding that helps the recruiter to come up with a framework to enable a shared responsibility recruiting framework. And with that, you can, for instance, create frameworks in terms of like documents where you share not only share the information, but let people actually edit this document and add content to it, review it together, but also having shared channels for communication where all updates and all the communication done about the hiring is transparent for people to really to follow up on. So that is something kind of like where you see how the way you use tools in recruiting and the which kind of framework you create is really dependable on the underlying mindset and understanding how Agile works in general.
Do you see, Sandro, a difference, or do you approach difference when you have like a product company, when you have a team, and then a different approach probably is when you have a service project-based company, when you have just when you need to hire people just to be ready for the next project, but maybe they are not already assigned to a team. They are or they won't have a team. There is a team that is going to be created in the future. So how would you approach this?
Sure. I mean, there are definitely some differences. So I mostly have supported product companies, and I think what's really great about like recruiting for a product company is that you kind of have a vision for a team or product to scale. So usually if you create the framework of transparency and saying like, okay, this is how the product should scale. This is the skill set that we need. Also, the team is growing with that. So all falls in line once you're communicating that. With service or like, let's say like IT outsourcing companies,
yeah.
They are not invested into kind of like a single product, you know, like they're changing clients, they're changing projects. So usually how do you build that up? Also, how do you build up a relationship as a recruiter with your respective teams that you're working with? Because they might not be like the same constant team. So you're rather focused on actually building up a staff or like teams that align under the bigger core company values instead of narrowing down on specific product experience or narrowing down on kind of like team subculture. That is always also like an interesting topic to dig deeper in. Yeah. And so you need to understand more the general needs of the clientele, and then hire people who are interested also in this kind of setup. Also being transparent about what is actually IT outsourcing about. Yeah.
That sounds much more challenging, actually. Yeah, I mean, in a sense, we spoke about why we do it in terms of transparency. We spoke about who should be part of it. I guess this also moves us to the next part where we talk about how do we do it, right? And I guess when we were speaking, one of the themes that came up quite a lot is about collaboration. And the problem is that, you know, when it's just a recruiter and hiring manager, it's so much easier because just two people. But then when you start involving a team, you start involving a lot of people, that also means that a lot of alignment and collaboration would really come into picture for us to be successful with this. And I really like the point which Manuel brought up here when he said that when you're talking about alignment, it's not just between, say, the recruiter and the team, but also within the team, for the team to really align, to really say, what kind of person are we looking for? And then to also work together to really see how should the JD be? It's not just the recruiter's job there. And then to align to see who will participate in the interviews, how will they talk to each other about it. We think of all this as very simple things, but at the end, they are so important. And I'm guessing it's the same. I mean, and that's just within the team, so that the team is aligned. And then you have to align that. Your team has to align then with the hiring manager and then with the recruiter, and to ensure that we are all in sync. In some sense, we are just helping each other succeed. And when we say it, it's so simple. It's like common sense. But I'm not sure how common this is, and I'm guessing that this happens more often than on that we have a lot of problems because people are not aligned. So we end up overburdening just one or two people in the team. Others feel left out, and a whole lot of problems.
And I was seeing also this from the point of view of getting the also, let's say, like help each other collaborate to find a real or realistic profile, right? Also, I've been involved in situations where the team says, okay, let's collaborate with the HR colleagues, and they create a profile that is impossible to find because experience, because the wide range of technologies that they are dreaming, right? And then HR colleagues helping us with their knowledge of the market, saying, guys, this person doesn't exist really. So we should pinpoint what is most important and working in those topics, right? So collaboration also to help us move forward much faster, right? Otherwise, we are just looking for this ideal person that doesn't exist. And then after 3 months, it's all frustration because, well, recruiter couldn't get the person that we are looking for, right? So this was my experience, at least, to share the knowledge between each other, right? The tech team saying, this is what we need. The recruiter saying, well, this is how I see the market. This is what I see now. And I think that collaboration is really, really useful, or I've seen it really useful in the past. I don't know if you use this much, Sandro, or you think when you are an experienced recruiter, you don't really need much input from the team.
Yeah. So basically, I couldn't agree more on the helping each other succeed part here, because especially when you're like a very experienced recruiter, you're more kind of like giving feedback, of course, but like stepping back and create and facilitate recruiting, and have people contribute to that. I think what a lot of recruiters experience in the past is that they went to their respective hiring teams, like a waiter in the restaurant, and being like, hey, I'm taking your order, what can it be today? And then they just like got requirements and then went back to the kitchen. And this way, there's like a lot of room that for failure and mistakes, and that can cost money and time. And but changing the mindset of collaborators and saying like, hey, we are all contributing. So like the recruiter is not kind of like just like an external service provider from outside of the team, but actually supporting like and part of the effort in scaling this team, like an agile coach actually would also do. It's a different kind of collaboration. It's not transactional, it's conversational. Something that I personally love to do is actually go to the teams and be totally transparent about what I need, because like I really don't know everything about tech. Obviously, I don't have a technical background. So I'm looking at my team being like, guys, just look at me like a machine learning model. You know, I'm Sandro ML, and you can train me here. And like if you would like teach a machine learning model, what you would need as kind of like a future team member, figuratively speaking. So like, what kind of information would you share to get like the most precise insights? And I think that's a great icebreaker. It worked well for me, and like helps kind of like getting into an atmosphere and the framework of having it conversational and collaborating.
Great, thank you.
Sounds like a great idea, actually. Yeah, we should use that more often, I guess, and it works very well with the tech folks. Yeah.
We have another question for you and another topic. We are moving forward. We were thinking, okay, then you went through all these steps and then you get someone on board. How often do you feel the wrong person was hired? How often you feel like, well, for whatever reason, we didn't get what the team needed?
So Sandro, what's your experience about this? How easy or difficult is it to find the right kind of people in terms of the right fit for a team?
It really depends on the expectations of the teams there, and where they kind of like adapt. It's sometimes in kind of like integrated in the subculture of the team, right? So you have like teams who have, for instance, a strong focus on finding a person that they can harmonize very well in collaborating, and then creating kind of like the good collaboration there. And then on the other side, you have teams that are like really focused and can't support each other in every detail work every day. So they are looking for people who are very proficient at what they do and very experienced there. And understanding that makes a difference. And I think with that, it sometimes is hard to tell. I think in most cases, when hiring goes wrong, there was like a mismatch about the expectations of what the team actually wanted to do and what maybe like the business requirements were, right? So for instance, usually the team would say like, hey, we would love to have maybe like a junior person and like someone who fits well in the team and we can train and have like a more heterogeneous setup. But unfortunately, right now the business has like some extreme urgency and we need someone to hit the ground running and find that senior. It can make all the difference. And with that, it's hard to tell how often that happens, but usually as a recruiter, if you ask a lot and also like the teams and have the transparency about like the business goals, what the team wants, you can like really quickly connect the dots and maybe prevent stuff from the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, here the numbers also show like that it's not that easy to hire the right person. So like people answering like, sometimes it happens, like most of them, and some say almost never, but still like sometimes like randomly might happen. So I think this is actually like a quite difficult challenge to find the right person. But on the other side, also, if you think about like the next step, I mean, you do have like a probation feedback period, and therefore like we should go to the next topic of feedback, right?
Yes, because we were asking this because we were thinking, are we, or in our experience, we see teams or companies using the probation feedback in a productive way? Somehow the answer was no. We were thinking there is clearly an opportunity to improve feedback during the probation, right? Or the probation time. Because it doesn't end when you recruit someone. You are also in charge or responsible to retain the right talent, right? To provide this feedback and seek feedback from this new joiner, right? It's a two-way thing, right? You want to make sure that this person gets on the right track. You don't want to hold your feedback until the end of the probation. And we were discussing, and somehow our feeling is that it's kind of black and white, or you say nothing because the person is doing okay, or next week the person gets fired because he's doing wrong, but there's nothing in between. There's no like a formal feedback to say, hey, you are doing great here, we would like to share these ideas with you to help you adapt better, right? So we were thinking, okay, there's, in our view, somehow a clear opportunity to improve the probation period through feedback, right?
Yeah, and I think it's also about both sides, right? It's not only about the company saying, "Hey, we hired you, and like if you don't fit, like we're gonna fire you again." But it's also about the candidate saying, "Hey, I started here. Like, do I feel like happy here? Do I like it? Like, am I getting along? Like, is there something I'm not like doing like perfectly as expected? Like, can I still like change or learn, or just like you need the feedback on both sides saying, dear company, this is not so smooth. Can we change something here? Or like from the team to the candidate saying, hey, on average you're doing good, but sometimes I don't know, like this or that. So if you give feedback and also like early, then people can react to that, and perhaps after 2 months you see, it changed for the good. So make sure that like feedback is really like addressed at the right moment to the right person, not saying, oh, now it's like 5 months and 2 weeks and we decided, oh, we don't want you anymore. And it's like, oh my God, like I didn't know, like
Exactly. And also it's you are building something in a way, right? Or you can see this as a building process, right? It's going to be super expensive just to say nothing, and then at the end or halfway probation period just fire the person and get started from scratch again to hire the right person, right? So your biggest interest is to help the person to get on track as fast and help her or she or him to see the opportunities that need an improvement somehow, right? So that's clearly let's say finishing the contract is going to be the most expensive approach, right? So it's in your biggest interest to give feedback to help go on track, and of course it's a complete a huge topic, the feedback about the recruitment process, right? How to make it better, how was the experience from the candidate, how was the onboarding, how was the whole recruitment process, and that's something that sometimes doesn't happen, right? The person is on board and then we just forget and get started, and that we think could be, let's say, productive for everybody, right?
Yeah.
We have a couple of more topics, so maybe we should move forward. We don't have much time. You wanted to share with us some common mistakes that you've seen on your experience, right, Sandro?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. So yeah, so just sharing some common mistakes when you try to adapt agile recruiting for your own team or your own organization that I've seen happening is first of all, sacrificing quality for velocity. So I think with agile in place, you can like reach like a lot of speed and develop as a team very fast. But sometimes when you see like something in reach, kind of like, for instance, there's like a candidate who left like a very good impression just like on paper, and then people sometimes in recruiting processes and the team, they'd be like, oh my lord, let's move fast here, let's move fast, like skip 2 interviews, just skip 2 interviews, and then we go directly to like final conversations and then offer out. That might create not only a lack of assessment that is necessary, but also kind of like a feeling of urgency and pressure with the candidate. So definitely, as fast as we want to be in hiring especially, we should never sacrifice quality for velocity. The next common mistake that I've seen and hear about is actually mistaking agile recruitment for Scrum recruitment. So there's like an important thing to differentiate here, because like if you apply Scrum, to recruiting, it might be applicable for like one role that you're hiring for. But if you would say like, okay, I'm now doing two week or like 1 week application screening, 1 week interviewing, then 1 week technical interviews and so on, it works for one pipeline. But as soon as you have different roles that you're hiring for, and they are kind of like starting asynchronously, then you go into a pinch. So it needs to be taken into consideration that agile recruiting is not about just applying some fixed framework, but like actual values and mindset behind agile. And the last thing is no learning and adopting. It's a kind of also correlating to the first point. So in a lot of hiring processes, you go fast through the entire process, hire someone, and then go on to the next role that you need to fill. But and then like the learning process is left out. You don't have kind of a feedback, or you don't have a postmortem, and even if things go terribly wrong, people don't speak about it. That's not good. So definitely need to take into consideration that learning there should be always time for the learning experience.
Great. What about your best practices? What's your experience on them?
So here are some kind of like methods and frameworks and tools that help me in adopting agile recruiting, especially with FlixBus. So first of all, interview or hiring retrospectives. So one advantage of agile recruiting is not only that there's like an emphasis on feedback, but that you can have it really fast. So really taking the time to do debriefs after interviews, after on-sites, after like even entire hiring processes, and have it like regularly implemented is really helpful in understanding and adapting what's going wrong very fast. The next thing is form follows function. It's kind of like a mindset, because what we usually do is, well, we set up communication and shared documents, everything in the environment that we usually work with. But if we collaborate on recruiting, especially with more participants involved, we need to be aware and we need to learn what kind of channels, communication channels, actually the hiring team, our hiring manager is using, because otherwise they might be left out on updates and important communication. So really, if you choose for tools to facilitate agile recruiting, look what is feasible, what is integrating well. And also, I mean, especially these days, IT security also plays a role in this. Another one is hiring artifacts. It's kind of what I refer to as having shared documents, but really looking at those as artifacts helps you to come back to all the commitments, all the agreements and alignments that you made. And it helps you to have accepted alignments, which is even more important. So sometimes if you go into a project briefing for hiring and you stretch it over an hour, there can be a lot of opinions going in, a lot of insights taken from. If you don't document this and have a shared artifact for people to come back to and look at, hey, what was actually the process? What was actually the requirements? It might get confusing and people might assume something afterwards. So hiring artifacts really help on keeping all that together. And the last one is the RACI chart. It might be a little bit not so common to use, but especially if you have like equal participants in equal responsible participants in a hiring process, it still helps to lay out what is expected from every individual contributor in their respective role by laying out the RACI chart. It usually follows the structure that you have people that are responsible, people that are accountable, that are consulting or getting informed about updates. And laying out this framework and saying like, hey guys, you're definitely responsible in contributing to the assessment of a candidate, but in the end, like there must be someone who is accountable for making a decision, helps also creating transparency and expectations. It's really feasible and helps you moving forward. Also, you don't have an overhead in communicating and being like, okay, who's now making the decision here? Who, what's going to happen next? Who's calling the shots, right? So the RACI chart helps.
I really like the RACI chart idea because it kind of combines everything, right? It's about setting expectations, at the same time having shared responsibility, at the same time ensuring that we have collaboration. I would say that's an awesome tool to use. I never thought of how it would be useful in recruitment, but it sounds very right to me. So thank you for that. I guess this brings us to the end of everything that we wanted to say. We spoke about a lot of things today, but 4 things in specific. We spoke about transparency, we spoke about shared responsibility, we spoke about collaboration, and we spoke about feedback and constant, faster feedback. And then there's so much that we heard from Sandro about his experiences, about best practices. Now we are opening this up for questions. If you have any questions, please put this onto your comments, or you could unmute yourself and ask questions. If there's anything that you want clarification on, we'd be happy to help you here.
So I have a question then.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So I'm also a tech recruiter, and I want to maybe ask you guys, or especially Sandro, of course, when the team is actually not taking the responsibility, what do you do, or what do you recommend? You know, you set the expectations and responsibilities maybe, but the team is maybe not willing to take this. Then what is your approach?
Yeah. So that is a tricky one, and it really shows that there might be not either the importance to have the discussion, or like maybe eventually like just the mindset and the trust is not there yet. So what I would usually do is saying like, hey guys, I'm here to support you and your team's growth, which I got communicated, and I think it's like really important, and it will help you in the end as a team to grow. And but it seems that there is not like that much of contribution or importance from your side. So like really want to get the feedback from you as a team. Where you would, if you were to place on like the stuff that you're working on, how much priority is hiring for you right now? And what would you expect from me to facilitate? Where do you see would be like a good place for you to contribute to? And trying to get into a conversational space with the team. It can be sometimes a little bit tough, but basically maybe coming up also with some kind of hypothetical questions that help to kind of like break the ice there will help, and being like, hey, guys, am I assuming wrong, or can we just like drop this role and not hire for you at all? That makes them usually speak up and be like, no, like we still want to hire. Oh, okay, cool, why? And then you can take it from there, for instance.
Yeah, that's actually a really good part to do it. But what I also experience is like with any situation where you're in and people like don't feel like responsible or try to help. Like if you like tell them, hey guys, you know, I have this situation here, like I need your help. Like people then feel more like, oh, you need my help. Of course I will help you, right? So like this point of like putting yourself in this position like that, you can't continue, or like you're lacking something and you're asking them for help, most of the people will always say, yeah, sure, I will help you. Oh, you're asking me for help? Of course I will help you. So like just like this small question of saying, hey, like, do you have some time to help me, will like change people of like their way of how they react.
And I guess also small things, right? It's asking for the small things and not presenting, let's say, a huge challenge for the team, but ask, do baby steps, right? Do small things together and have the team collaborating in small things and just growing from there, right?
Yeah, and there's one more question which I got in the chat. Any tips on onboarding? Because we've not spoken much about onboarding at all. I know recruitment is like a huge topic. There is a lot that we've not spoken about, but any tips on onboarding, on how can we make that successful?
Yeah. So that is a really interesting one. So basically, here at Flixbus, at least, I'm not involved in the actual onboarding, but there's some feedback that I receive from time to time, and I think what's really helpful is first of all, stay engaged and stay in contact, because there's like usually a time lag of 1 to 3 months between a person signing a contract and actually starting at your company. So really staying in contact there and kind of like feel what is needed, right? And asking about it, caring about people. That is super important. And then additionally, laying out a structured onboarding process. And I think this can be really challenging, because if you're, for instance, having a setup where HR is facilitating the onboarding, but actually the content of the onboarding in terms of what to learn at which stage with which kind of partner might come from the actual team, then you also need to build that expectations and the relationship that they feel comfortable in contributing to that. So it strongly resonates to a lot of the topics that we covered before, and I think it really is about setting expectations. Also, and about what I usually ask in project briefings as a recruiter is, what is the goals that this person, like who would start in this role, would need to achieve in the first 100 days after they start. Super simple, nice and easy, and it's like really making people think about what they actually expect and how would they structure the onboarding accordingly, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a great question.
That's a great one. We have a couple of minutes left. I don't know if for sure we have time for another question. I don't know if there's something there. No.
All right.
I guess it's time to say thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Sorry, Shiva. Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, I also wanted to say that, feel free to leave us with feedback. And we talk a lot about it, but we also want to hear feedback. We're trying to bring in new topics for conversations here. So we also want to hear about how it was for you. How was it useful? Is there things that you want us to change? So feel free to do that. You could put this onto our chat in Zoom. You could also write to us. You could, unmute yourself and say it. That's totally fine. We would really want to hear from you on how this is helpful for you and what we could do to, make this better. So please feel free to do that. And as usual, always reach out to us if you want any help. We'd be happy to help as well. So please take the time to do that. And anything else, Manuel, to add on?
No, just to say a big thank you to Sandro for joining us, for sharing all his experience and tips and ideas. We are happy to have him here. Thank you very much. And yes, I hope we see you in a month, always the last week of the month. So I hope to see you soon. Thank you for joining today.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you as well for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks, Sue, for
Welcome,
having
Sandro.
me.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
See you.